Hello and welcome back to Digitise This, the podcast from PFU, a RICO company, where we explore how intelligent capture and workflow automation are transforming the way organisations operate. I'm your host, Steve Chadd. Healthcare systems across the UK and Ireland are facing enormous pressure to digitise patient records, not just to improve efficiency, but to meet strict governance and compliance requirements. With national digital strategies accelerating the move to electronic file management, the challenge is no longer whether to digitise, it's how to do it at scale. Today, we're speaking to someone doing exactly that. Ola Cafferty from Datascan Document Services joins us to share how her team processes thousands of healthcare documents every day, combining RICO A3 production scanners with FileStream automation to deliver reliable, secure, and cost-effective digitisation. We're also joined by Paul Day from PFU ISV partner FileStream, whose software expertise helps power the automation behind these workflows. So let's dive into a real-world BPO success story. Welcome to the latest episode of Digitise This. So Ola and Paul, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So healthcare systems across the UK and Ireland are under pressure to digitise patient records, not just for efficiency, but for governance and compliance. So Ola, from your perspective on the ground, how urgent is that challenge right now?
Well, it's really urgent. In Ireland, we're a good bit behind the UK as far as digitising with the electronic health record for all the citizens. So our government has set out a very ambitious plan, which is called Digital for Care 2030, and part of that is to have an electronic health record for every citizen. And obviously, a goal of that then would be to have all of our medical records digitised and up available to view, for anyone to view it whenever they need to.
So are organisations coming to you because they want to digitise or more because they have to?
I think it's a combination of both, really. A lot of our customers would actually be GP practices. We have a slightly different system in Ireland than we have in the UK. We have a combination of private and public medicine. So a GP practice could be handling patients both in private and from the public list. So typically we see that the digitisation in primary care is to do with changes in their organisation, such as GPs retiring, amalgamations, mergers and acquisitions, and also then in relation to implementation of software products in the surgeries, for use. So they want to do it. Some of them are reluctant to do it because of their perhaps their age or their nearness to retirement or whatever. But they really have to do it because there's an expectation with everybody that your GP surgery will have your records digitally accessible.
Mm-hmm. So and what are the typical pressures that they're facing? Does it include staff shortages? You've mentioned governance requirements. Are there any procurement deadlines or?
Well, to be honest, it's the hospitals and the larger organisations that are under the procurement time constraints with the digital for care. But GP practices, primary care practices, it's staff shortages. That they need to dedicate time to have their records digitised. A lot of the practices that we work with, we've a kind of a niche business with GPs, and we scan all of their correspondence for them, and typically they would have dedicated one full-time equivalent person to scanning the medical records of the correspondence that was coming into the practice for their patient cohort. So we take that out. So it's a combination of kind of everything, I think.
Okay, thanks for that. And before we dive any deeper, could you tell us a little bit about Datascan and where the business began and how it's evolved into a specialist document services bureau?
Yeah, no problem at all. So we're a family-owned business. I'm second generation owner of the business. We were set up in 1993. Originally, we were part of a much bigger business that my parents had at the time in a completely different industry. And when that business was sold, the data processing side of the business, which handles the sale or return data for the print media industry in Ireland, we've been doing that since 1993. So then, then we, 1998, then we hived that bit of business off. And then in 2009, because the print media wasn't doing so well, with the recession and so on, we decided that we had to set up some other type of business. So we went into document services. So initially we thought that because we were able to scan paper that anybody could be our customer, but of course that didn't work out too well. Often something that can be done by anybody is done by nobody. So we then started to try and pick out sectors to target, to specialize in, and GPs were really the focus for us. And like we have a very strong niche now in Ireland with the GP market.
That's quite the journey. Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in that on the healthcare side of things. Let's talk about one project in particular, the regional hospital pilot that demonstrates what's really possible. You ran a pilot with a regional hospital group over 8 weeks. What problem were they trying to solve?
To be honest, they had no scanning at all on site. So it's a regional hospital group down in the provinces in Ireland. They had no scanning. They had set up their own archive, Paul, hadn't they? Like they had set up their own archive unit with the aim to try and get ahead of Ireland, ahead of the HSE, the Health Service Executive, in trying to tackle some of the scanning of their patient files. So they really wanted a proof of concept to show that, one, that it was possible that they could scan on site, and that it was, achievable for a reasonable cost, reasonable outlay insofar as infrastructure and capital expenditure and so on. And so they also wanted us to train their own staff because they had no specialist scanning staff internally.
Were there any particular governance or workflow requirements that made this project a little more complex?
To be honest, this project wasn't particularly complex for us. It was very sensitive rather than complex,
right?
Because we weren't allowed to put the scanning infrastructure onto their own hospital network. We had to be on its own kind of standalone closed loop network, which Paul set up with the team down there. So it was really it wasn't complex insofar as the workflows that we would have in the bureau to scan medical records, or the scripts even that Paul's company have written for us. It wasn't complex in that way. It was just a huge responsibility, and very, very sensitive. So there was an awful lot of due diligence went into the contracts, and even vetting of people that we were able to bring down there and so on. So.
And I understand you were scanning around 5,000 documents a day.
Yeah.
What exactly does that volume look like in operational terms?
Well, it's only a very small number of boxes, to be honest. If the aim wasn't for speed. The aim was to prove that they could undertake scanning on site, teach their own staff how to scan properly. The complexities of hospital charts. You would get an awful lot more throughput in a bureau than you would, on site doing that. So we had a training operator down there for a couple of weeks, teaching them how to properly prep charts, take them apart, scan the different types of documents that will be found within them, traces, forms, and anything like that. And then because all of those files had to be completely reassembled as the way that they were found, it made it a lot slower than we would like from an efficiency point of view.
It's the detail and the diversity that took the time.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah. And trying to establish SOPs for them, to show them best practice of that. This is how you do. Even so far as, somebody who doesn't understand scanning of medical files, perhaps not understand even just the basic kind of housekeeping that you have to, that you have to implement when you're handling sensitive documents and putting them back together again.
You initially had to staff a scanner for 8 weeks. Why was that necessary?
It was for training. It was to train them on the software, train them on as I said, the practicalities of actually scanning the physical documents, and the sensitivities and what to look out for in all the different types of documents. Because each one would have a different challenge.
Exactly, and as you can understand, medical notes, the accuracy has to be 100%. There's no, you've got everything from a ECG report, which is obviously the graph paper. There's all different lengths of documents, so it's not a matter that you can just scan an A4 page. There was a lot of unusual sized documents, and they still had to be accurate.
Traces particularly are very, very difficult. They're very important. You could be your ECG or EKG, anything like that. They're very, very poor quality output because they're designed to be read in real time. They're not designed to be looked at later on. However, you do need them if so. Our operator then, he was very good at showing them how to handle those, because it is, garbage in, garbage out with if the poor quality original image.
Yeah.
You need to be careful of it.
Okay. And what did that early phase teach you about workflow design?
It was quite simple, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very, very important, but there were, all the stakeholders kind of got involved, which was really good, I thought. The key people were very on board with it. Do you know? So far as complex workflows, we have a lot more challenging stuff going on in the bureau that would kind of like light the fire so far as tech, but really not it didn't teach us that much apart from, the handling of files in a hospital environment, how slow it is, how onerous it is. It is, getting files from A to B and, different volumes of files, I suppose,
And it sounds like the people aspect of it was obviously
huge.
the particularly,
Yes.
every organisation is different,
Yes.
every set of people's different.
Absolutely.
So getting them on board.
Every person's different, training people that have got no knowledge in scanning whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's not, as you say, an easy thing. It's especially with the medical notes, because a medical note hasn't got a lifespan.
Yeah.
Whatever, that's from when you're born to when you die and beyond. So, even when you've passed away, you still need those medical notes for anything that could come back. So sometimes you're talking of documents that are 90 years old.
Yes.
Wow.
It's not a 5-year, 7-year financial document. It's huge.
So Paul, where does your role come into a project like this?
So through our partner in Ireland called Woodsoft, we met Ola many years ago, and we've worked with Ola, as I say, on a lot of our scanning thing. We write a piece of software. It's got our own scan interface. So what we tend to do is we tend to look after the complexity of profiles. So Ola's operators can go up with this document 1 minute, that document next minute, and basically just click a button, and the scan settings, whether it's DPI, color, everything double-sided, it's all set up at a click of a button. Then what we do with Ola, as you say, in the other side of it, is we do a lot of management scripting. So we know that, for instance, this customer on this profile scanned this many pages. Ola's got a great quality control system that somebody will scan the documents and then somebody will also process and index them. So the accuracy is there. It's not just one person looking at the data and indexing it. Also, with my software, it allows the scanning operator to see the image as it's going in real time.
Right.
So if there's a problem, they can spot that problem straight away. It's not a matter of walking up to a machine, just throwing through and then realise after page 4 you had an issue, and then you've got to rescan the documentation straight away. And as I say, using my interface, I've got the options to scan more. So if there is a problem, we don't rebuild the whole file, we just continuation onto the file. So I think that's where we fit into it.
Great. And you've described PaperStream NX Manager as the heart of the capture environment. What does that mean in practice?
So FileStream is in what we use for the capture side of it. It allows me to do a lot of processing stuff before it gets into the indexing stage. So the QC of those documentation is there. There's lots of other softwares out there, but being able to capture the software or the document at that point, and as I say, with the medical records, it's got to be accurate, it's got to be precise. There is no one sort of fix all for that documentation. So the process speed obviously helps Ola and her operators look at the data to get it into the system clean and everything like that.
And how does server-based workflow automation differ, in your opinion, from traditional client-based scanning in instances like this?
So we still get a lot of clients that want encrypted data side of things on premise. A lot of our competitors are cloud-based, which a lot of customers, especially medical and secure stuff, don't want their data in the cloud. The other side of it as well is we have everything encrypted at rest. So even the IT people can't look in the back door at our data. So that's very important, is the fact that GDPR comes into play. So if you did have a data breach, they wouldn't be getting any of that data. So the workflow side of it comes into that. We also have a lot of processes that we can automatically say every 5 documents or every 10 documents gets put into a workflow for somebody to quality can check it and make sure that everything's going okay.
So Ola, what difference does automation make to a bureau like yours?
Well, to be honest, because we're processing paper files all the time, we do very little in digital native documents. Automation is very important for us because otherwise we'd be completely manual. So Paul and his team have written scripts for us that enable us to output data quickly and safely for our customers. So really the automation is key for us, and I'm hoping that we're going to have advances in that too.
So can I ask, without those scripts and those notifications and workflow rules, what would happen?
Oh, well, I mean, we'd be really slow. We wouldn't make any money. It's already tight enough when you're employing people to do this type of stuff, so.
Yeah. So is that really one of the big differences between being scalable or not? What do you say? Automation?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's great.
you'd have to, scripting and and being clever about what you're doing. I mean, if you need to be asking yourself, should I be doing this same thing over and over again?
Yeah.
And not getting some sort of automation written. So
Just looking at the types of scanners that you use, you'd previously moved away from what were previously Fujitsu, now
yeah.
Ricoh scanners. What made you come back to them? Was it performance, cost, reliability, or combination of
Well,
either?
originally we moved away from them because a number of years ago, primarily because of cost, and we had undergone a bit of an expansion in our bureau, so we needed several kind of lower value models, So, but it kind of turned out to be a bit of a false economy because the engineer was always on site for a couple of the units that we had. So based on feedback, I mean, a lot of our team is working with us a long time. A lot of it, some of our scanning team were with us since 2013. So based on feedback from them, and obviously being guided by Paul and his team, that we actually moved back then to the Ricoh scanners. Reliability was one.
Okay.
Robustness, because I mean we don't have enough homogeneous documentation to get the massive speeds out of the machine that are promised on the box. We have all sorts of documents coming through our bureau. I mean, medical, financial, legal, it could be anything. And then the automatic color detection is a very big one. That's not as elegant with some other models, so that's very important for us, especially with the medical, because grayscale charts, dividers, all the leaflets, all that sort of stuff. So,
So how important is operator experience then when you're running high volume all day scanning operations?
Oh, look, I mean, I was thinking about this before we came in. It's vital because I mean, if you don't have a happy team because they're really frustrated with the units that they're scanning, because we're doing medical records, it's prep and scan. So we don't have a prep team because it's not. They need to prep and scan their own files because of accuracy, really, And if the team is grumbling over the kit that they have, I mean, it's not good for business.
Understood.
Yeah.
So from the hospital's perspective, what would you say was the biggest win?
To be honest, I think it was proof that they could do it. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, so it's proof. It's obviously, there's more to it. There's disaster recovery. When we talk these medical notes, we're talking, as I say, we're talking in many, many years. Nowadays, we're not seeing, we're seeing flooding every single day of our life. If these medical records are in a warehouse that gets flooded, that's a big issue. You're losing it. And there's been many occasions where a lot of these hospitals will put their medical notes in the basement because that's the only place to store it. And unfortunately, that's the first place that's going to flood. So if you lose a medical record, you're losing a lot of sensitive data that you're not necessarily going to get back. So disaster recovery, proof of concept that it's easy. At the end of the day, you're taking people in. I mean, say that hospital employed some temp staff.
Yes.
And they were up and running within 2 days that hadn't done anything with the scanning industry whatsoever before. But the fact that it was so simple and easy to use, it made it simple for them to have the proof of concept.
That's interesting.
I also think that the way that the electronic health record is going to be rolled out in Ireland, I think that this hospital group wanted to get a little bit ahead of the game instead of waiting for. I mean, the actual tender is out at the moment for the patient record software, but it has no provision in it for legacy scanning. So this hospital group wanted to get ahead of that. So that they would have a certain cohort of records already ready to go into the electronic health record when it goes live. So I mean, with other hospitals we've cooperated on, small, for example, like a women's health clinic in a smaller hospital, so that their cohort of records is ready to go into the electronic health record as well when it is ready. So I think this hospital group has made a very good decision on trying to get ahead of that because the cost, and I know from studying the NHS a bit that the cost for legacy scanning is multiples of the actual the digitalization software. So
I mean, it sounds like as well as the efficiencies of operation, people seem to be taking a lot more account of strategic factors these days as well. That sounds
absolutely.
It's skill set as well. I mean, so we're pretty lucky that we've got another big hospital in Ireland, and we're already in that market from the moment that ED, you go in and you become scanned at paperless. So if you're admitted from ED up to the wards, you've got a paperless file. It's an electronic file, but we're also talking to their patient software. So as a customization, if somebody's scanned and indexed a document, that's then transferred to their patient software. So if they go back to a fracture clinic, they can press a button from that software, and we can deal with over 300 file types. So we're talking of X-rays as well, which when you think of an X-ray, can you see it in most of the physical things? Well, with our software, we can recognize that and just say this, that's everything done.
Yeah. I think you ultimately went through procurement and you were the only bidder capable of meeting the spec. What did that tell you?
To be honest, from feedback from the procurement director at the time, she said why she was attracted to us as a team because we've been working together for so long, and that we weren't one of the big guys, the very huge organizations that are in records management and kind of swallow up all of these projects. And we had already had proof of concept ourselves with, insurance companies that we'd worked for, financial hospital departments, out of hours GP services in Ireland. We worked together on those. So it was very complimentary of the fact that we had such a strong working relationship built on trust over many years, more than a decade. Well,
yeah. And we were looking at the bigger picture. Yeah. It's not just this is today's problem, it's what's tomorrow's problem, and where do you want to go? Because once you've done all this scanning, sooner or later those records are going to come down the line in an electronic format, and they need to be appended together to make everything that fall smoothly. So that's where we've got the skill set, and that's talked a lot, really. It's not as if you're reinventing the wheel. We know the wheel in that market.
Again, people experience
that's it.
Counts for an awful lot beyond
Huge.
the tech itself.
Yeah. And I mean, Ireland is a village, do you know what I mean? So you need to, people really do business with people in Ireland, that's for certain.
So Ola, you evaluated alternative software platforms for this project. What did you learn?
It wasn't specifically for that project.
Okay.
We are using a couple of different softwares in the bureau. For different data extraction. We'll be using an American piece of software, but the difficulty with that then is that support is not in real time for us.
Okay.
It's in California time, so you put a query on the portal, it gets answered the next morning, and so it's not as easy as dealing with FileStream in the UK. So
timing and support in terms of time zone itself can,
of course, and that's the practicality from our team's point of view. But from our point of view as a business, cost is a huge factor, and then the fact that Paul and his team are not outsourcing their code to anyone else to be developed. They're working on it themselves. So when you need a piece of work done to enable our customers to achieve their goals, it's at a reasonable time frame, it's a reasonable cost, and it'll do what we need it to do, and it doesn't have to, be work out.
So some competitors require different modules for different industries. How important is it that FileStream allows you to switch between, say, healthcare one day and legal the next that easily?
Oh, it's really important. I mean, as I said earlier, Ireland is very small. We're a very small bureau in Ireland. We don't have huge cohorts of records that are homogenous coming in through our door. So we need to be able to work. I mean, credit unions are a big customer cohort for us. They obviously the medical GPs, hospitals, and so on. And then, but it could be anything. It could just be an accountant with 4 filing cabinets. So we need to be able to cater for all of it.
So Paul, you support bureaus in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, lots of places. Are you seeing similar pressures globally?
Yeah, so the paper records are an expense to any business, whether they're in a warehouse, whether they're in there. And when you talk of a London company where you've got a filing cabinet, you're talking £25-30 a square foot of office space. That's a lot of money. And then you've obviously got the disaster recovery to take in, you've got security to take in. So obviously that forms a big part of our software is security. Who can see that document once it's scanned in? So there's lots of people that are looking at this finally, and obviously with data breaches that are happening every single day in our life now, we're hearing, these are becoming more and more. So having that data encrypted at rest, having it protected and secure, even if you did have that data hack, and I always say, everybody's going to get data hacked sooner or later. It's making sure that data's not available to be stolen as easy as anything. So that comes into a big play, and that's where I feel people are starting to come around. When you say I've been in the paper industry 30 years now, it's a long time, and we'd like to think that more and more people were advanced. What I'm generally seeing is we are seeing that Ireland is very quickly becoming, I would say, more advanced than the UK. They're waking up to this whole paperless thing. And I don't believe in the paperless office, because let's be serious, we all take notepads, we've all got that side of it. But a paper secure and a fast response. This is the thing, you see, having that paper storage in a warehouse takes time. So we're noticing a lot of customers are now coming back and going, whether it's legal, whether it's medical, that I can go and search for that medical record and get the information ASAP, not ring up, wait for a van to deliver that box back, find that the wrong document's in the wrong box. And this is all stuff that we've learned over the years, and giving people the bigger picture is a massive.
And following on from what Ola was mentioning a few moments ago, would you say that things like flexibility and agility are also defining factors now?
Yes. The biggest thing as well is user functionality, user friendliness. You look at a lot of customers or a lot of companies now be going, well, that software may cost A, B, and C, but the actual training schedule of training the operators and everything is massive. There's a lot of things around that, whereas our software can be installed and used out of the box within the same day. And Ola can prove that by obviously training operators. She's got some very, very, good operators that can go down and train people that's not ever seen a software before or done anything like this before, and get them up and running.
Amazing. So Ola, Ireland's Digital for Care 2030 plan suggests a huge digitisation push. So what does that mean, in your opinion, for data scan?
Well, hopefully we'll be able to participate in the digitisation of some of the legacy records. I mean, we're already seeing it. We're already cooperating on projects where smaller cohorts of records are being digitised in advance of the actual go live of the electronic health record in 2 years' time. So so we're hoping to be very busy. And I mean, myself and a couple of other small bureaus in Ireland have kind of banded together to try and lobby the minister for digitalisation, so that we can be assured that SMEs will get part of this business in the future.
And where do you see the biggest opportunities over the next 5 years?
Well, in the immediate term, it's transformation of paper records into digital for us anyway. I mean, there are other digitalisation projects going on, but not necessarily something that we will be part of.
I know it's been talked about a few times. People are wanting more and more AI-assisted recognition. If that's something that's a focus for you, what would that ideally look like?
Well, I mean, I think machine learning is probably more going to be the focus for us. I mean, we are really just in Ireland. We're really just at the introduction of the unique patient identifier. So the checks and balances that go into play with the unique patient identifier versus the other fields that need to be cross-referenced, that's going to be a big thing for us. So that'd be something that we'd be looking for development in. To look up software, so that the patient identifier, the numerical patient identifier, matches perfectly with the database of address and other ID fields that we would obtain.
And how do you balance automation and the drive for productivity with data protection and patient confidentiality?
Well, it's just the way that we've set up in our bureau. I mean, that's because we have the 27001 ISO. That's a very big focus for us. As Paul mentioned earlier, we split tasks between staff. So one team member doesn't scan and index, a complete file. One team member will scan it, and then another team member will index it, ready for import into the customer system. And what that does then is it provides a kind of a primary check on the integrity of the file that we have, and then obviously we have QC then after that. But then from a technological point of view, then we would have a closed loop network and stuff in operation in the bureau. So
okay, so let's distill this into some takeaways for our listeners. Ola, if another BPO or healthcare provider is listening today, and assuming you want to help them out, what's the one lesson that you would share from this?
I would think that consider very carefully about your budget around scanning kit. That would be one thing, because I mean, we had fallen into the trap of false economy, under-speccing machines that we were going to use across the bureau, and at the end of it all, buy cheap and you buy twice. I suppose that's probably a good lesson. So then also try and get all the stakeholders involved when you're trying to spec out a project. I think that definitely for the hospital group there was definitely good stakeholder involvement there, and that's kind of it, I think.
And Paul, from your perspective, what would you say separates a scalable digitisation setup from one that constantly struggles?
Yeah, I think you've got to be able to grow, and that's the advantage with having a software that can grow with you. And as Ola sort of before, she had a software that was being charged per page, to where we don't charge per page. You know, the software is the software; it's there to do a job. So when you're getting a return on the investment of saying, you know, even though you scanned a page, it might not have been the right page. You had to scan it again. You're being charged twice. Whereas that comes into a big cost factors, and it is everybody's down to price at the end of the day. So yeah, it's having something that will grow. I generally believe having a piece of software that's user friendly. And as we know, we do a lot with the medical records, so going on from the check-in as well, you know, Ola's scanning operators and her indexing process, but also us looking up to a database that the medical record number does match, because obviously the last thing you want is a medical record number put on the wrong file. So if there's anything that looks up, and that's what we do with the other hospital, we look up to the medical record number. If there's something that's wrong, we will flag it so somebody else can physically look at it, because at the end of the day, there is no 100% OCR engine or AI engine that's going to do it all the time. You know, and this is the fact that sometimes people write over numbers or something. That's still happening. Wherever there's a lovely doctor's signature or something like that, it's going to interfere with the process of the data accuracy.
And barcodes can misprint as well. You know, that's we are big into barcoding in our place. So we probably process a million barcodes every fortnight. So
wow. So Ola, if you were starting a new bureau today, what would you prioritize first? Hardware, software, workflow design, or people?
Well, I would certainly look at the use case. What are we trying to achieve first? I mean, I think when we started out in the bureau, we started too generally. We thought that we could just scan every type of paper. So if we wanted to target a specific market, I think I'd probably take a step back and try and spec out and the workflow first, and then look at what kit and software would need to be in place.
Got it. Okay. So, Paul, this project, the hospital project, highlights collaboration between bureau, software provider, and manufacturer. How important would you say that ecosystem type approach is these days?
It's very important, because I'm putting my reputation into the hardware that I'm supplying.
Yeah.
I believe that my reputation is my support and everything to that end user, to the customer, to Ola.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Ola's employing the staff and paying their wages, so she wants the system to work very quickly to get a return on investment. So I'm not going to go and hopefully cause headaches like Ola was experiencing with other manufacturers of the hardware. And also it's, you know, I'm looking at what Ola's doing. And it's not sort of supplying a piece of hardware to do A, B, and C, when I know in the long run, Ola wants to reach more stuff. You know, she could be scanning one document, one type, 1 second, one document and the other. So it's very important that you're aware of what your customer wants to achieve. And, you know, as I say, making sure you've got it right.
And Ola, what does it mean to you to have both the scanner manufacturer and the software partner aligned and supportive?
Oh, it makes a big difference, because I mean, we never get into the situation with, oh no, you're going to have to contact the scanner provider, or, oh no, go back to the software provider, because the kit is immediately compatible with the software, so it makes a big difference. And also, as I said earlier, the UK support makes a massive difference. Same time zone, same language, no misunderstandings. It's great.
And what excites the both of you most about what's coming next in document digitization?
It's always going to be there. More and more people are going to wake up to take the fact that, you know, it's not just scanning a piece of paper, it's data security, it's, you know, the whole documentation policies, security, everything that's coming down the line is exciting. As I say, I'm pretty lucky in the software we've written is for any business model, as Ola uses it in every different sort of scenario. So that's where I feel it's exciting. If you can say you can get excited about paper.
Ola, is there anything next coming that's exciting you?
Particularly in Ireland, as I said earlier, the individual health identifier is going to be a big thing for us, because I mean, you have a single correct identifier for every citizen in Ireland, you know, that we can match off, because, you know, with the best will in the world, GP records have been fairly messy in Ireland, you know, slang names and nicknames, all that sort of stuff. So to actually have a one single patient identifier that we can, all of our work can be tied to, I think it's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. That brings us to the end of today's episode of Digitise This. A huge thank you to Ola Cafferty and Paul Day for sharing such a practical, honest look at what large-scale healthcare digitisation really involves. We've heard how reliable A3 production scanners, flexible automation, and strong collaboration between software and hardware partners can make the difference between simply scanning documents and delivering measurable, compliant transformation. If you're a healthcare provider, IT leader, or document services bureau looking to scale your digitisation efforts, this episode shows what's possible when the right technology and expertise come together. Don't forget to subscribe to Digitise This on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, and join us next time as we continue exploring how smart capture is unlocking productivity, compliance, and innovation across sectors. I'm Steve Chadd. Thanks for listening.